Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Reborn as Gohan in future timeline. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name in the description below. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 111. Quick! Such speed! In just a blink of an eye, Trunks arrived in front of Broly, and his right fist broke through the air, hitting Broly's face hard. Broly's face was visibly deformed, and then his whole body was knocked away. His body smashed through 5 or 6 weathered stone mountains. Dust rose into the sky, and thick smoke filled the area for several miles. Broly! Paragus shouted loudly. He had never thought his son would be knocked away in the first round. He also glanced at Trunks' profile and vaguely saw the outline of King Vegeta. His cloudy eyes couldn't help but shrink. King Vegeta, Vegeta. Is this kid Vegeta's son? Just as he was wondering, Broly's fierce roar came from a distance. Broly yelled madly, like a savage beast rushing out of the thick smoke, charging towards Trunks. At this time, his aura was boiling, and there was a faint green color on his body. Ah, he shouted, a crazy shout. Broly had no skills at all, he just used his body to move at high speed, rushed to Trunks, and threw a punch. Trunks changed his fist into a palm, grabbed Broly's fist, and stretched out his other hand to grab Broly's thick wrist, then threw Broly into the depths of the earth with an over-the-shoulder throw. The ground cracked, and rocks flew through the air. Boom! In just a moment, a strong green light burst out from the ground. Broly's aura was swirling, and the flying ki blew everything around him into disarray. From this, it was clear that Broly couldn't control his aura at all. Ah! He opened his mouth wide, releasing the instinctive anger in his body. His aura was also rising wildly. His messy black hair stood up because of this, and the surrounding aura was golden and green, with strong airwaves spreading in all directions. In just a moment, Broly's originally black pupils turned golden. The aura of his whole body also expanded to an astonishing degree. Golden pupils, bearing the power of the giant ape's transformation in human form. It's a bit like the youthful version of Super Saiyan 4. Paragus couldn't bear such a strong wind and rolled on the ground. Seeing this, Gohan teleported and picked him up, protecting him behind him. You! Paragus was surprised that Gohan was so kind. But he thought these people must have other intentions. I won't hurt you. Just stay back and watch, Gohan said calmly without even turning his head, his eyes fixed on Broly on the battlefield. With a crazy roar, Broly rushed towards Trunks like a madman again. Although Trunks was surprised at Broly's growth, he didn't think that Broly now would be his opponent, so he also rushed forward. Both of them punched out with their right fists, at the same angle and with the same moves. The two fists suddenly collided, and a strong ki wave erupted, sweeping across the nearby sky. The clouds in the sky shattered. Dense rubble also flew into the air, then turned into powder and disappeared. The ground suddenly collapsed and sank into a large area. The violent wind surged, and the two kept punching back and forth. Together, accompanied by violent roars and bangs of collision. Waves of ki flashed across the sky, and the golden and green energies continued to merge, as if divine punishment had descended. Paragus swallowed his saliva frantically, he could not believe that Trunks was so strong. In comparison, King Vegeta back then was like a clown. He could be crushed to death with just a finger. Are the younger generation of Saiyans so powerful now? Thinking of this, he could not help but glance at Gohan's back. Could this guy be stronger than the descendant of King Vegeta? After all, they all followed his lead. Ah! With an angry roar, green light shot straight into the sky. Trunks punched Broly in the face, but this time he failed to knock Broly away. Broly held Trunks' fist and glared at him with a hideous look, which made Trunks stunned for 0.1 seconds. But Broly seized this opportunity and suddenly pressed a green ki blast in his hand on Trunks' chest. A loud boom sounded through the sky. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of Trunks' mouth, and he flew backwards. The clothes on his upper body were also blown into powder. He looked at the mad Broly in shock. He didn't expect that this crazy big guy could actually fight against his Super Saiyan in normal form. What's wrong with this guy? When he was surprised, Broly rushed up again. Trunks quickly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and rushed up with the same excitement. The two began a new round of chase. Ki exploded crazily. The sky was full of Ki rain, and the ground of Vampa was instantly riddled with holes. In a short period of time, Vampa was cut by 1/10. During the fight, Trunks was surprised to find that the crazy Broly was getting stronger and stronger, and he was getting braver and braver. He had a tendency to crush his Super Saiyan form with his ordinary form. This big guy, his growth rate is too terrifying. And his skin is thick, and his defense is amazing. Ordinary attacks can't hurt him at all. How can there be such a Saiyan? Thinking of this in his heart, Trunks suddenly jumped into the air, condensed a golden Ki blast in his right hand, and pressed it towards Broly. Unexpectedly, Broly did not dodge at all. He stretched out one hand and grabbed the Ki blast directly. The two pushed each other a few times, and the Ki blast exploded. Their figures were blown away. Trunks felt a sweetness in his throat, and a mouthful of blood was about to spurt out. He forced himself to swallow the blood. The crazy Broly's forehead was bulging with veins, and his hands were waving continuously. Dense green Ki blasts hit Trunks. Trunks' figure shuttled quickly and swam quickly in the Ki rain. There were constant rumbling explosions behind him, which could be described as sparks and lightning all the way. Whoosh! Instant transmission was performed. Trunks suddenly appeared behind Broly. Before Broly could react, Trunks clasped his hands together and hit Broly's back with a volley blast. Ah! Broly screamed and fell to the ground like a burning meteorite. With a loud bang, he smashed through several mountain ranges, and the entire Vampa planet shook. Phew, what a tough guy! Trunks hadn't finished his words. A thick green light penetrated the sky and earth, and Broly soared into the air again. At this time, Broly's already strong and solid muscles expanded again, and his aura completely turned green, and his aura burned the surrounding air, completely deformed. His figure flashed, and he came in front of Trunks at an extremely high speed. One of his hands suddenly reached out and grabbed Trunks' arm, holding Trunks tightly, and the other hand attacked Trunks frantically. The sound of bang 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 was endless, which made people feel sick. Ah! Along with the sound of the blows came Trunks' screams. On the ground, everyone couldn't help but clench their fists. Seeing this battle situation, Paragus couldn't help but say, Broly can withstand using the power of the giant ape transformation in his human form, but he can't control this power at all and has completely lost his mind. Can we end this battle now? He took out the small remote control on his waist. But at this moment, everyone saw that the collar Broly was wearing suddenly broke. What? Paragus's hands trembled, and the remote control almost fell to the ground. How could this happen? What should I do now? Don't worry, it's okay, Gohan said. It's okay? Your friend was almost beaten to death, but he's still okay. Paragus's cloudy eyes saw it clearly. Broly kept beating the young Saiyan, and Trunks spat out several mouthfuls of blood. Ah! Suddenly, a long roar that could pierce stone and split gold resounded through the sky. Trunks' body suddenly burst out with a strong wave of air and golden light, and he forcibly broke free from Broly's control. Broly was stunned for a moment. He did not expect Trunks' power to suddenly increase. Trunks raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, and then laughed, "Ha, I haven't been this excited in a long time. It makes my blood boil. Then I'll show you my Super Saiyan 4. Ha-iya." Trunks clenched his fists, and his aura began to run wild. Thunder flashed in the sky, lightning and thunder roared, and strong winds blew. Suddenly, a bright sky. Trunks' body suddenly rose up and turned into Super Saiyan 4. His long, messy purple hair flew over his shoulders, and the exposed hair on his body was the same color as his hair, turning into a great purple. In an instant, the surging momentum pushed Broly back several steps. Chapter 112. Trunks transformed into Super Saiyan 4, and his ki was so strong that it was incomparable. Seeing this scene, Paragus was stunned. He had been isolated from the world for more than 50 years. Could the Scions be this strong? Trunks' ki is so strong, Supreme Kai couldn't help but sigh. This was the first time he saw Trunks transform into Super Saiyan 4. The feeling was slightly different from when Gohan transformed. When Gohan transformed into Super Saiyan 4, he gave Supreme Kai an extremely domineering feeling. But Trunks gave him a sharp feeling, as sharp as a sword. An unstoppable sharpness. But there was one thing in common, that was that they are both very powerful. Boom! After transforming, Trunks stepped through the air and punched Broly with a straight punch. Broly was furious and had no intention of avoiding it. He faced Trunks' fist directly. But this time he couldn't withstand Trunks' fierce attack. He could only retreat again and again. In just a moment, he didn't know how many punches Trunks had hit him. But Broly became more and more angry, as if he would never get tired. Ah! A green ki wave suddenly spit out of his mouth and rushed towards Trunks. Trunks raised his hand and waved it to slap the ki blast away. The ki blast suddenly exploded in the distance, shaking the earth, and the planet Vampa was once again seriously damaged. The next moment, Broly clenched his 5 fingers on his right hand, and an extremely turbulent ki gathered, forming a green ki wave that hit Trunks. Trunks clasped his hands together and once again knocked away Broly's attack with a volleyball-style smash. Then Trunks snorted coldly, leaned on top, and beat Broly crazily. The sound of bang 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 resounded through the sky. But Broly's ki didn't show any sign of decreasing, and his defense was quite amazing. Gohan frowned and watched for a while. Broly's strength had obviously reached a bottleneck and could no longer be improved. It was too difficult for him to fight against Trunks' Super Saiyan 4. Unless Broly could break through the bottleneck and transform into a Super Saiyan, his strength would increase again. Moreover, Broly is a future friend, not an enemy. He will be counting on Broly to participate in the Tournament of Power in the future and contribute to the 7th universe. So, if there is a way to bring out Broly's potential power, he doesn't mind giving it a try. Just think of it as training the team's strength. But the premise is that they can't go too far. Gohan looked up at the pot-era earrings on Supreme Kai's ears. Oh, it seems to be okay, the risk is within the controllable range. Is there any way to make Broly quickly become a Super Saiyan? Looking at Paragus, Gohan felt that it was time to pay some copyright fees to King Frieza. He turned around and said to Paragus with a smile, "Uncle Paragus, in order to make Broly become a Super Saiyan, I must do this." Ha! Paragus was stunned. What does this mean? But before he could think carefully, he felt dizzy and fainted. Gohan quickly caught his body and put him where Broly could see him. Seeing Gohan's mysterious plan, Supreme Kai and Kibito were also confused. "Gohan, what are you doing?" Supreme Kai said in a daze. He could feel that Paragus was just asleep and there was nothing wrong with his body. Gohan smiled and said, "Preparing the sacrifice for Broly to transform into a Super Saiyan." Ha! Kibito and Supreme Kai exclaimed in surprise. Does one need sacrifices to transform into a Super Saiyan? Is there a ceremony like the one for Super Saiyan God? They don't understand. They have never seen it before. Gohan raised his right hand and scratched his left palm hard. Blood instantly sprayed all over Paragus' face. It didn't hurt, just like a mosquito bite on the palm. In just one breath, his left palm was completely healed. Supreme Kai and Kibito looked at him stupidly, with more and more question marks above their heads. How can they not understand this? Everything was arranged. Suddenly, Gohan shouted at Broly, "Broly, look, what is this? Your father is dead." He pointed at the bloody Paragus on the ground. Supreme Kai and Kibito were startled. What is he doing? Gohan's voice was so loud. In the sky, Broly, who was being beaten by Trunks, heard it. Even Trunks was stunned and stopped when he heard Gohan's words. What kind of devilish strategy is this, brother Gohan? After hearing what Gohan said, Broly suddenly turned his head and looked at the ground. After seeing his father lying in a pool of blood on the ground, his whole body trembled. His pupils contracted rapidly, and the whole person exploded in an instant. Ah! He clenched his fists, veins popped out all over his body, and his face became extremely ferocious. At this moment, he was not only mad but also furious. Ah! A roar like a wild beast came out of his throat, resounding through the world. As he roared, the golden pupils in his eyes disappeared instantly, and he completely lost his mind. Then, his whole body's momentum began to grow rapidly, and his thick black hair also stood up and instantly turned into a golden color. At this moment, Broly finally broke through his limit and awakened the Super Saiyan transformation. For a moment, the terrible green ki swept out with him as the center, and the entire Vampa planet shook. The dark clouds in the sky rolled back, and there were constant lightning and thunder. The surrounding planets were affected, and Broly's violent breath spread into the deep space of the universe. Goku and Vegeta, who were far away on Earth, suddenly raised their heads with shock on their faces. Such a strong aura. Whose aura is this? Is Trunks fighting him? Goku on Paozu Mountain was full of surprise. Saiyan Ki, this is Saiyan Ki. Vegeta at Capsule Corporation also clenched his fists. Vegeta remembered that Gohan suddenly came to find Trunks. Could it be that these two guys secretly went to fight with someone new without telling him? It seems that this is right. These two brats. At this moment, the hateful Kakarot appeared. Come on, Vegeta, let's go take a look, Goku said, putting two fingers on his forehead. Humph. Vegeta snorted coldly but still put his hand on Goku's shoulder obediently. Then the two of them disappeared out of thin air and headed for planet Vampa. At the same time, Broly on planet Vampa had completed the transformation into a Super Saiyan and rushed towards Gohan like crazy, wanting to cut Gohan into pieces to relieve his hatred. But Trunks quickly blocked him and said, "Big guy, your opponent is me." Ah! Broly was furious and punched Trunks directly. The two started fighting again. Goku and Vegeta suddenly appeared in the sky and looked at the fight between Trunks and Broly in surprise. The fire of war in their eyes was burning fiercely. They looked at the ground, found the location of Gohan and the others, and landed. As soon as he stood on the ground, Goku rubbed his hands and asked excitedly, "Gohan, what's going on?" "We found two Saiyan survivors," Gohan simply replied, and then pushed Paragus. "Hey, Uncle Paragus, get up, your mission is accomplished." Chapter 113. The battle in the sky became more chaotic. After Broly successfully transformed into a Super Saiyan, his strength was greatly increased. He actually surpassed Super Saiyan 4 Trunks. At this time, Trunks was beaten back step by step and could only defend himself. Boom boom boom. The ki kept exploding. Every collision between the two was extremely fierce. After being hit by Broly several times, Trunks felt a surge of blood and sensed that his internal organs were injured. On the ground. Paragus finally woke up after being knocked out by Gohan. He looked confused and felt uncomfortable with a sticky feeling on his face. He raised his hand to rub his face but ended up rubbing out sticky blood. Ah! He was instantly frightened, and his body trembled. Paragus moved his butt backwards frantically, and his pupils showed fear. "What's wrong with me?" His hands were shaking. "Don't worry, Uncle, that's my blood, you're fine," Gohan said as he took out a bottle of water. "Here, wash your face," Gohan said as he unscrewed the bottle cap and began to pour water for Paragus without saying anything, as if he had practiced it in advance and it was as smooth as silk. Paragus washed his face in confusion, then raised his head and looked around, and then he saw Vegeta's face that made him angry. The face of King Vegeta, whom he had strangled to death 999 times in his dream. "Damn it, Vegeta, he's Vegeta." Paragus clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. He felt like a mad dog that met the person who hurt him. He was full of hatred, anger, and hostility. Paragus's hostility was too obvious. And his voice was loud, so Vegeta naturally heard it. Vegeta turned his head with his hands on his chest, raised his chin slightly, and looked at Paragus with contempt. "Humph, do you know me?" Paragus was so hostile to him, Vegeta certainly wouldn't look at him well. Paragus looked at Vegeta with hatred and said, "Of course I know you, your face looks exactly like your father's, damn it." "Humph, so you have a grudge against my father, so what?" Vegeta said coldly. "You." Hearing Vegeta's arrogant answer, Paragus couldn't help but get angry. Okay, let's put aside the past grudges. Besides, you can't beat Uncle Vegeta now, so what's the point of showing your teeth to him? If you are really angry, you can just let Broly beat him in the future, what do you think?" Gohan said. Hearing Gohan's words, Vegeta couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Paragus remained silent, but after calming down, he felt that Gohan's words were too reasonable. After all, he only has a combat power of several thousand, and he is old and weak. Of course, he can only rely on Broly for revenge. The battle in the sky was still going on, but it looked a bit horrible. Because now Broly was chasing Trunks relentlessly. Broly had completely lost control, and he showed no mercy when his power was running wild, and he beat Trunks so hard that he doubted his life. Green ki blasts flew everywhere, bombarding him wildly. Trunks moved at high speed and kept dodging, but he was also hit a lot and was in a very embarrassing situation. Suddenly, Trunks' feet were firmly grasped by Broly. Trunks struggled hard but couldn't break free from Broly's control. Broly directly swung Trunks like a sledgehammer and smashed him madly on the ground. There was a loud bang, and the ground cracked. Trunks was hit so hard that his head was dizzy, blood spurted out of his mouth, and he was numb. But even so, Broly had no intention of stopping. Trunks threw ki blasts at him with all his strength, trying to break free from his control. But it turned out to be completely useless. Broly was like a demon. Not only was he extremely powerful, but he also had amazing defense that was impossible to break. Under continuous attacks, Trunks felt like he was about to pass out. However, he endured the severe pain and did not even scream. "Damn, I can't stand it." Seeing his son being beaten like this, Vegeta could no longer bear it. He shouted, flashed, and rushed towards Broly at high speed. During the high-speed flight, a blue light shot up into the sky, and Vegeta directly turned into Super Saiyan Blue. "Take this." He kicked across the air and swept directly towards Broly's head. Bang! The kick hit Broly head-on. But Broly didn't even take a step back. He turned his head under the heavy pressure from Vegeta and gave Vegeta a grim laugh. What? How is this possible?" Vegeta was stunned. What on earth is this guy made of? Suddenly, he pulled away and was about to retreat. But Broly had already dropped Trunks from his hand and punched him. Vegeta's pupils quickly dilated, and he quickly put his arms in front of his forehead to block Broly's fist. Boom! There was a loud noise. Vegeta was knocked out by the punch. Countless boulders were smashed with a rumble, and thick smoke billowed. Broly stomped his feet hard, the ground jumped open, and chased after Vegeta. Vegeta, who took Broly's punch, felt his hands numb and almost lost consciousness. But what shocked him was that Broly had no intention of letting him go and chased after him like a crazy beast. Boom! 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 After several collisions, Vegeta flew up into the sky in a mess, with traces of blood already flowing from the corners of his mouth. He looked at Broly, who was chasing him again in shock. His mood was extremely complicated. Just now, when he saw Trunks fighting, he wanted the action to himself. But after he took over, he found that he was beaten even worse. Trunks, lying on the ground, took out a senzu bean with trembling hands and swallowed it, recovering from his injuries. Then he stood up and looked at Broly, who was chasing Vegeta and beating him madly, and the shock in his eyes could no longer be concealed. What kind of pervert is this big guy? He can beat him and his father in Super Saiyan Blue with this most ordinary Super Saiyan form? This is simply outrageous. It is so powerful that it is indescribable. Goku, Supreme Kai, and Kibito, who have been watching the battle on the side, are also shocked beyond words. Broly's power is too violent. His fighting style is also wild. They have never seen such a fierce and brutal invincible warrior. It gives people a feeling of invincibility. Kid. Paragus patted Gohan on the back. Ha! Gohan looked back at him in confusion. Broly has already won, so you must keep your promise, Paragus said. So this is what Paragus has been thinking about, fearing that Gohan and the others would go back on their word. Okay, don't worry, Gohan promised him, and turned around to continue watching the battle. After just a few rounds, Vegeta was defeated and was chased around by Broly. He was even more embarrassed than Trunks just now. Vegeta soared into the sky, recreating the classic Prince's fighting method. Suddenly, the Vampa planet shook wildly, and Ki exploded wildly. But a huge green gas shield suddenly expanded, accompanied by a violent roar. Broly soared into the air unscathed, and a green Ki bomb in his hand hit Vegeta. Vegeta also frantically increased his momentum and fired a powerful afterburner in his hand to meet Broly's attack. The two energies collided and exploded. Vegeta spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards with serious injuries. Vegeta! Goku shouted, and suddenly turned into Super Saiyan Blue and rushed to the battlefield. Chapter 114. Goku teleported into the battlefield, stopping Broly and giving Vegeta a chance to catch his breath. With his super high speed, Goku dodged Broly's fierce attacks again and again. In addition, his strength was slightly stronger than Vegeta and Trunks, so he managed slightly better at dealing with Broly. Vegeta stood up from the dust, raised his right hand, and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his sleeve. He looked at Broly, his eyes already furious. He is the Prince of the Saiyans, but he was beaten to a bloody mess by a wild Saiyan of unknown origin? He couldn't accept this. What's more, how could the opponent beat his Super Saiyan Blue with this ordinary Super Saiyan form? This is unreasonable. Trunks flew to Gohan's side and said with a bitter face, "Brother Gohan, I lost." Seeing his discouraged look, Gohan patted him on the shoulder and comforted him. "It's okay, I might not be able to beat him either. This Broly is really too strong. The scary thing is that he has not received any formal training. He just uses the Saiyan instincts in battle, but even so, it already demonstrates its superiority over ordinary Super Blue and Super Saiyan 4. He is a super fighting genius." Listening to Gohan's words, Trunks was stunned. Indeed, Trunks, who had experienced the battle himself, knew very well the terrifying speed of Broly's improvement. It didn't take him too long to go from being defeated by ordinary Super Saiyans to crushing Super Saiyan 4, showing his amazing strength. Such a devil-like guy is so invincible that it is both terrifying and exciting. At this time, Goku, who had been fighting with Broly for a while, began to show signs of defeat. Then he was punched away by Broly. Vegeta stopped watching and followed Goku's attack rhythm and attacked Broly. Goku turned over and flew back. The two Super Saiyan Blues teamed up to fight Broly. For a moment, Ki was flying and strong winds were blowing back. The three chased each other around Vampa several times, and almost all the monsters on the planet were killed by the Ki aftermath. Broly raised his hand and threw out a series of Ki blasts, chasing Goku and Vegeta and bombarding them. The sky and the earth were full of Ki storms generated by their battle. Boom boom boom. Another series of huge explosions. Vegeta and Goku were both seriously injured. Super Saiyan Blue transformation consumes a lot of Ki. In addition, they had been outputting at full strength, so their strength began to decline, and they were no longer at their peak. Broly's attack was more powerful. Huff, huff, huff. Both of them were panting. They hadn't experienced such a hard battle for a long time. Broly seemed to know no fatigue and rushed towards them again, punching them one by one, making them bleed wildly. In a blink of an eye, the two could no longer maintain their Super Blue forms, and they turned back to their normal black hair and fell into the dust. Hiss, this sparring partner is too scary. When fighting with Beerus would deliberately hold back and stop when he had enough. But Broly, who was running wild, didn't care about that. Every move he made was a killing move, making the two feel the threat of death for the first time in a long time. Cough. Goku and Vegeta both coughed and barely got up from the dust, but they were exhausted and could not fight anymore. Broly didn't care about that. He swung his arms and threw two Ki blasts. Gohan couldn't stand by and watch. He flashed twice and caught Goku and Vegeta. He threw a Senzu bean to each of them. The two ki blasts exploded, and the ground shook. Ah! Broly's green flames rose again, and he rushed towards the crowd. Broly, who had completely lost his mind, did not realize that Paragus was actually standing behind everyone and was not dead at all. It must be admitted that when Broly rushed over like a beast, even his father Paragus was scared. Supreme Kai and Kibito could not help but take a step back. "Let me do it," Gohan said, and suddenly transformed into Super Saiyan 4 and rushed forward. Broly grinned and threw a punch. Gohan also gathered his energy and punched through the air. Boom! The two fists collided instantly, and circles of ki burst out with them as the center. Everyone retreated one after another, and the ki above Vampa exploded, rushing into the galaxy, bursting with terrifying light. The first direct attack, both of them were shocked back several steps, but Gohan forced the blood that was about to flow out of his throat. What a terrible power! The last time he fought against Cooler, he didn't feel such great pressure. And now, his strength is several times stronger than that time. It can only be said that Broly's strength is too amazing. Whoosh! The two moved almost at the same time. But Gohan, relying on instant teleportation, was obviously faster. He instantly appeared behind Broly and slammed into Broly with a knee strike. Broly was kicked out, rolled twice in the air, and then pounced on Gohan again as if nothing had happened. Humph, come on. Gohan pushed his aura to its peak and rushed forward at a speed faster than Broly. Bang, boom, boom. Four fists collided violently. The space crack exploded. The two rushed into the colorful world. Although Gohan's whole body was numb with every collision, he was extremely excited. This kind of refreshing battle was exactly what he needed now. After hundreds of punches, Gohan felt that the dark red hair on his body was soaked by the blood beads overflowing from his skin, but it didn't matter. His super regeneration and super recovery ability could fully support him. Boom! The unknown space exploded. The two appeared again above the planet Vampa and wrestled with each other. The golden and green ki split the sky in half, and lightning and thunder continued around the two. Ah! A crazy howl. An angry shout. Broly's ki surged again. His muscles were beating and swelling, becoming even stronger. His golden hair became even more flamboyant, standing upside down, and then turned into an emerald green color. This is Broly's legendary Super Saiyan form. Boom! Gohan spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. His right hand was instantly broken, and his heart was shaken into a bloody mist. Whoosh whoosh! Super recovery and super regeneration were triggered. The body quickly reconnected the tendons and bones, the heart reshaped, and the whole body made a crackling sound. Looking at Broly, who looked like a demon, Gohan also let out a long roar and started to break through the limit. The golden aura of his whole body instantly turned into rose red with fluorescent dots. The hair color changed from black to orange red and then to blood red. 10 times Kamehameha. The hot and surging blood red ki roared out and hit Broly directly. Now that Broly had turned into this form, how dare Gohan hold back? Broly also condensed two huge green ki blasts with his hands, combined them into one, and then hit Gohan. One red and one green, they collided in the sky. The space around them was shattered, and there were continuous dazzling thunders falling down, and roars erupted. The Vampa planet began to crumble, and it felt like it could no longer support such a ki showdown. At this moment, a white light flashed, and Whis and Beerus suddenly appeared in the sky. Beerus looked up at Gohan and Broly, who were fighting each other, and said with some surprise, "Whis, who is that green-haired boy? His power has surpassed some weak gods of destruction, right?" About Broly, author's personal opinion. Broly's growth is not infinite, but he has reached that point, accumulated to that point, just like potential is dormant in the body, just not developed. And the fierce battle can be understood as accelerating the release of his potential. In addition, Broly's golden pupillate form, also known as the angry form, / legendary Super Saiyan can suppress the Super Saiyan God, but it is slightly inferior to Super Saiyan Blue. Now Trunks, his Super Saiyan 4 is about the same as Super Saiyan Blue, which is weaker than Goku, but stronger than Vegeta's Super Saiyan Blue. Broly's Super Saiyan form crushes the Super Saiyan Blue of Goku and Vegeta, so in the movie version, the two had to fuse into Gogeta to compete. But I don't think Broly and Gogeta are fighters of the same level. Gogeta's transformation into Super Saiyan Blue to fight Broly is just a joke. I think Goku's Ultra Instinct can completely compete with Broly's Super Saiyan form, and Perfect Ultra Instinct can beat the legendary Super Saiyan Broly. Legendary Super Saiyan Broly should be between Ultra Instinct and Perfect Ultra Instinct. The reason why Gogeta was released was that the audience wanted to see it, pure plot. Chapter 115. Ha, it looks like a Saiyan, Whis said with a smile. After that, the two of them fell in the direction of Goku and the others. With Whis' arrival, the Vampa planet, which was shaky in the Ki storm, became much more stable. Paragus looked at the growing number of people and was confused. No one had come to Vampa planet for decades, and now they came in groups? And they were powerful people who didn't need to take a spaceship and suddenly appeared in a flash? Paragus's small worldview couldn't accommodate so many outrageous things, so he could only choose to deal with it in confusion. Beerus frowned and looked at Supreme Kai, wondering why this guy appeared at the storm scene again. Supreme Kai thought Beerus was going to ask him about Broly's origins. So he explained the whole story to Beerus. Beerus didn't care about this matter at all. In the sky, the green and red Ki were still colliding and wrestling with each other. But the blood-red Ki was obviously slightly weaker. After a few seconds, the green Ki began to suppress, slowly suppressing the red Kamehameha wave. Gohan's veins bulged all over his body, and he felt his blood flowing faster and faster. He seemed to hear a rushing sound, as if he was about to explode. "Ah!" Gohan roared and forced the Kamehameha wave back a few meters. But at this time, the two energies wrestled for too long and finally could not bear it anymore, and exploded. In the violent flash, the Ki of destruction swept out, rushing into the depths of the galaxy. The Vampa planet closest to the center of the explosion faced the Ki storm head-on and exploded with a bang. In just an instant, its area was reduced by 2/3. If Whis hadn't protected a part of the area, Vampa planet would have become a firework in the universe. Gohan and Broly in the air were both blown away by the explosion. They each rolled several times before they stabilized their bodies. Gohan's breathing was wheezing, and blood was oozing from the corners of his mouth. Broly didn't know how seriously he was injured, but one could see that his chest was heaving, and there were mottled bloodstains on one of his arms. "Hey, you must be hurt," Gohan covered his chest and grinned. Broly's green-haired legendary Super Saiyan form is indeed very abnormal, slightly stronger than Gohan's current Super Saiyan 4 God. And Gohan has also noticed the problem. At this time, Broly's aura has been stimulated to its peak. His Ki has no tendency to continue to grow upward. Gohan took a deep breath, and his super recovery ability restored his body to its peak state again. Looking at Broly, Gohan thought to himself, my previous guess was right. Broly's rapid growth in strength is actually similar to the release of potential. The Ki accumulated in his body has already reached this level, but he doesn't know how to use his power. The high-intensity battles allowed him to constantly adapt to the new power, forcibly releasing the potential that had been accumulated in his body for many years, reaching the current point. That is to say, he cannot increase his strength infinitely. He needs to continue to accumulate potential or practice to continue to improve. Gohan was thinking. Broly's eyes once again burst into a bloodthirsty light, his whole body boiling with green Ki, and he roared and rushed towards Gohan. Gohan also burst out a red airwave and rushed forward, and the two fought with each other again. After countless clashes, Gohan's blood was boiling, and his fighting spirit was unprecedentedly strong. In the fierce battle, there were even wisps of white mist overflowing from Gohan's skin. That was because his Ki was always running at a high intensity. That is to say, he can do it with his current physique. If it were someone else, they would have given up long ago. Broly is indeed stronger than him, but Gohan is not afraid at all. There is a tendency of becoming more courageous and stronger with each setback. Fight madly. Gohan felt that there was a beast in his body that was even crazier than Broly and was gradually awakening. The red light and the green light intertwined, and the sky was full of traces of the two people's battle. On the ground, Trunks looked up at the battle and sighed. We are both Super Saiyan 4, but Gohan and I are so far apart. My Super Saiyan 4 is no match for Broly's normal Super Saiyan, not to mention this green-haired form. If it were me, I'd probably be killed in one go. Vegeta and Goku felt the same way. They had just been beaten up a lot, and they were beaten back from Super Blue to normal. Maybe it's not Super Saiyan 4 that's strong, it's just Gohan who's strong. Goku turned his head to look at Vegeta and said, Vegeta, what do you think of Broly's Super Saiyan state? How can it be so strong? Vegeta was silent for a while and said, he looks like he has contained the power of the great ape in human form and then turned into a Super Saiyan. This is probably the most primitive form of the Saiyan, a bit like the evil Saiyan. This guy lost his mind, became extremely angry, and then broke through the limit of the great ape's power to reach this point. Goku was stunned for a moment. What do you mean? I don't understand. Vegeta looked at him with disdain. Forget it, it's useless to talk to you with your pig brain. Goku. Trunks next to him asked, Dad, this type of Saiyan shouldn't be very common, right? Vegeta said, this type of mutant Saiyan might not appear for thousands of years. I didn't expect it to be born in our time. Amazing. Trunks was secretly shocked when he heard this. Beerus also grinned and snorted, you Saiyans are really interesting. Bang, bang, bang. Gohan flew backwards, his whole body covered with wounds, and a lot of his hair fell off, but fortunately, he had a lot of hair. Cool, but I won't take advantage of you. Gohan laughed wildly and threw a senzu bean at Broly, who was yelling and rushing towards him to beat him up. Broly lost his mind and opened his mouth to roar wildly. The senzu bean was thrown into his mouth with 100% accuracy. Broly was stunned and swallowed it. A second later, again. He went crazy. All his injuries were healed, and his ki returned to its peak, even stronger. The huge fist broke through the air and blasted towards Gohan. Come on, let's continue. Gohan seemed to have gone crazy, with a red light in his eyes, like a demon. Bang! The two fists collided, and Gohan flew backwards again. But the next moment, he rushed back even crazier, raised his fist, and smashed Broly's face, knocking Broly's head crooked. It looked like he wanted to turn the situation around and beat Broly violently. So the two lunatics kept wrestling in the air, and blood splattered. The people watching on the ground were terrified and gasped. Boom! Gohan and Broly fell from the sky and crashed into the ground. Thick smoke rose up, and the already much smaller planet Vampa shook violently. Soon, two figures, one red and one green, rushed out of the thick smoke, whizzing past everyone with a gust of wind. The strong wind blew everyone's clothes. Ha, it's done, I did it. Gohan's crazy laughter came from the strong wind. Chapter 116. It's done, I did it. Gohan seemed to have gone crazy, laughing wildly. Bang! He was hit by Broly's punch and flew into the sky. The flying Gohan's Super Saiyan 4 state suddenly collapsed, and his body was bathed in the lightning that kept falling from the sky. No, Gohan can't maintain his Super Saiyan 4 transformation anymore. Seeing this, Trunks became anxious and prepared to rush out, but was stopped by Vegeta. Dad, let me go, Trunks said anxiously. Idiot, are you going to die? Gohan's ki hasn't dropped at all, and you didn't notice that? Vegeta glared at him. Well, that's true, but why didn't Gohan maintain his Super Saiyan 4 God? Trunks said, looking at the sky, his eyes getting wider and wider. He was really worried, and Gohan's ki not only didn't decrease but it began to surge wildly. Boom! A thick purple lightning bolt struck down, illuminating the dark sky. Ha. Gohan was still laughing. Amidst his wild laughter, dense silver airwaves began to gush out of his body. Purple-red arcs danced wildly in the air, constantly wrapping around his body and making sizzling sounds. Gohan's thick black hair stood up in an exaggerated manner and grew wildly, instantly turning silver gray. A tuft of silver bangs hung down in front of his forehead. His black eyebrows also turned silver instantly, and his appearance was extremely cold. A touch of red light overflowed from the pair of black eyes, and then quickly turned into a bewitching red. Silver hair, blood-red eyes. At this moment, Gohan looked like a mad beast. His heart was boiling with fighting spirit, and he was full of desire for battle. The warlike beast in his body awakened. Zizizi. The silver-purple aura was overwhelming, and Gohan stood in the lightning. At this moment, this powerful figure seemed to be imprinted in legend. But Broly didn't care. He roared madly and rushed towards Gohan. His 3-meter-tall sturdy body was faster than lightning, and his emerald green hair danced in the wind like a demon god. Ah! The dense fists were like mercury pouring down on the ground, covering Gohan. The air was blown up, making a crackling sound. Gohan's figure swayed in his fists, and then his right fist instantly blasted out. There was a dull thud. The fist hit Broly's lower abdomen. A terrifying ki burst out from his body and erupted from Broly's back. Broly's body flew backwards. Whoosh! Gohan, with silver ki flying, disappeared in an instant. The next moment, he appeared and had firmly grasped one of Broly's arms, forcibly controlling the violent Broly in the air. One hand controlled Broly, and the other fist punched Broly. Broly's body was thrown up and down, and several mouthfuls of blood spurted out of his mouth. Ah! Then, Gohan shouted loudly, grabbed Broly's body with both hands, and rushed to the ground at an extremely fast speed. Crazy huge force was thrown out along his arms. Broly's body was like a meteorite hitting the Vampa planet. Boom! Vampa was pierced in an instant, and exploded completely, turning into a gorgeous firework. At the moment when Vampa was blown up, Whis opened an air shield to protect the place where they were standing. Ah, Broly! Paragus was anxious and yelled. Planet Vampa exploded, and his son was still at the center of the explosion. But in fact, his voice could not be heard from Whis's protective shield at all. Among these people, except Whis who kept smiling, the others were already stunned. Gohan's sudden transformation made them feel a strong shock again. It was the same as the first time he transformed into Super Saiyan 4. It was even stronger. After all, Gohan's ki is now many times stronger than the first time he transformed into Super Saiyan 4. When he transformed into Super Saiyan 4, he was very domineering, and the visual impact was very strong. But now this silver-haired look is not only domineering but also looks a bit evil, arrogant, and invincible. It's domineering and crazy. Beerus supported his chin with his right hand, tilted his head, and said, Gohan has made a new transformation again, it's really weird. He, Master Beerus wants to spar with him again? Whis laughed. Well, let me think about it. Maybe we can do it next time and let him have a rest first. Wow, Lord Beerus is so considerate. Trunks' eyes widened. Wow, what kind of transformation is this, brother Gohan? It's completely different from the transformation of Super Saiyan, and it doesn't look like the evolution of the God Ki. Yeah, but it's really amazing. Seeing the invincible posture of Gohan, Goku's eyes lit up, and he was very excited. But Vegeta was a little puzzled. For some reason, Gohan always amazed everyone inadvertently. Every time he practiced, he advanced in front of everyone, so much so that he couldn't even see his taillights. Damn it, why did Kakarot, this abominable guy, give birth to such a genius son? Obviously, the bastard Kakarot is just a low-level warrior. He looked at Trunks. Although Trunks is also very good, even better than him. But, compared to Gohan, the gap is still too big. It's all Kakarot's problem. He looked at Goku angrily. The shock of Supreme Kai and Kibito was negligible. The bright light from the explosion in the universe finally dissipated. Broly was floating in the universe, with blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, and he seemed to have fainted. After he fainted, his body returned to his normal black-haired appearance, and he had shrunk a lot. Gohan flew to Broly, picked him up, and then teleported into Whis' protective shield. As soon as he put Broly on the ground, Paragus rushed over and shook Broly's body. Broly, how are you? Broly! He is just unconscious, and although he is slightly injured, it is not fatal, Gohan said, taking out a senzu bean, prying open the corner of Broly's mouth, and feeding it in. What did you feed him? Paragus asked anxiously. Medicine to help him recover from injuries, Gohan glared at him. Paragus did not dare to doubt. The main reason is that he can't defeat any of them here. And if Gohan really wanted to harm them now, he wouldn't need to do such complicated things. Gohan calmed down, retreated from the violent beast form, and turned back to his usual self. This beast form made him very irritable and always wanting to fight. It is not suitable for use during rest time. Paragus has been staring at Broly's body. Broly's throat slid and he swallowed the senzu bean. The injuries on his body disappeared instantly, and his breathing became smoother. Paragus continued to shake Broly's body twice, and Broly slowly woke up. Dad, he said dazedly. Huh? Then Broly turned over and jumped up, a rare look of joy on his dull face. Dad, you are not dead? No, Paragus said, he lied to you. He pointed at Gohan. Ha, Gohan laughed, I just wanted to help you become a Super Saiyan quickly. Broly ignored him, lowered his head, and looked a little guilty. He had just lost his mind and went berserk again. Dad should be very upset, right? Chapter 117. In fact, Broly didn't understand his father at all. Because at this moment, Paragus was not only not troubled but also so happy that he almost took off. His own son beat up Vegeta and his son. He vented his anger. He won the bet and could get rid of the current predicament and leave this damn place. It was simply double the happiness. Looking at Broly with his head down, Paragus patted Broly on the shoulder and said, Okay, Broly, you did a good job. Broly looked up at his father in confusion, with a puzzled look on his face. You won the bet, we can get out of here, you did a great job, Paragus repeated. Listening to his father's words, Broly's sad expression finally melted, and he became visibly happy. Things finally came to an end. Then, Broly and his father went to Earth with Gohan and the others. Beerus warned Gohan and Supreme Kai a few words and then returned to his planet with Whis. As for Paragus and Broly, they were placed by Gohan in an uninhabited manor at the foot of Paozu Mountain, and brought them a bunch of daily necessities and food. Looking at the piles of supplies, Paragus and Broly were stunned for a while. Especially Broly, his face was full of confusion. He has lived on the planet Vampa since he was a child. His staple food was bitter and smelly green plant juice. In addition, he occasionally chewed some monster meat raw. But the meat of those monsters is even harder to swallow than the green juice. Therefore, after seeing so many daily necessities, in addition to confusion, he was curious. Are these all food and drink? Black question marks kept popping up above Broly's head. Gohan unscrewed a bottle of water and handed it to him. Drink some water first. Broly took the water with a puzzled look on his face, but the confusion on his face did not diminish at all. Gohan threw a bottle to Paragus, opened one himself, and drank 2 gulps. Broly looked at Gohan's refreshing and happy look, his Adam's apple moved, so he drank a small sip carefully, and then his eyes lit up. What is this? He pointed to the water bottle. It's just ordinary water, Gohan said. It tastes good. Broly raised his head and drank the whole bottle of water in a few gulps. Gohan silently handed him another bottle. This poor guy, this is probably the first time he has drunk pure water in his life. Broly drank another bottle. If favorability were displayed, Gohan felt that Broly's favorability towards him had suddenly increased to more than 80 points. Try this. Gohan tore open a bag of potato chips and handed it to him. This time Broly ate without any hesitation. Gohan pointed at the pile of things and said, There are cooked foods in here, and some are raw foods that need to be cooked. Before he finished speaking, Broly picked up a raw pig's foot and started chewing it. Well, never mind, it probably won't hurt. Paragus next to him hesitated and asked, Mr. Gohan, are those things you said before true? What thing? Gohan asked. About the Vegeta planet, Paragus said. Oh, that's true. Planet Vegeta was destroyed by Frieza about 50 years ago. Now there are only a handful of Saiyans left. Except for a few children, you have basically seen them all, Gohan said. The fighting nation of the Saiyans has fallen to this point. Then why did King Frieza destroy planet Vegeta? Paragus was puzzled. In his opinion, the Saiyans have always been Frieza's right-hand men and the vital force of Frieza's army. There is no reason for Frieza to destroy planet Vegeta. Gohan explained, because Frieza is afraid that a Super Saiyan will be born among us Saiyans. I see, what about King Frieza now? Paragus continued to ask. He couldn't change his way of addressing Frieza for a while. After all, it was a habit he had developed over decades. Frieza was killed by my father a long time ago. So that's it. If I'm not mistaken, you should be Bardock's descendant. After all, your father looks exactly like Bardock. I used to have some friendship with Bardock. Although he was strict, he was really powerful. I didn't expect his descendants to be so powerful. Paragus flattered him in a series of subtle words. Gohan was silent. To be honest, he didn't quite believe that there was any friendship between Bardock and Paragus. The Saiyans in the past were cruel and cold-blooded. They only knew how to fight and would even kill their own sons and fathers. They were really a cruel and evil nation. It was nonsense to say that they had any friendship. Gohan was too lazy to talk to him about these things, so he changed the subject and said directly, Uncle Paragus, Broly is a strong warrior, but he can't control his strength and anger, so I will teach him some things from time to time in the future. Good, this is great. Paragus said in an exaggerated manner, looking very excited. Well, let's do this for now. I'll come back tomorrow. Try not to run around. This will only increase the chances of Broly going berserk, Gohan said. Okay, I understand, Paragus nodded. Paragus was very satisfied with the current situation. Compared with planet Vampa, this place is more beautiful than in his dreams. And King Vegeta is dead, and his resentment has disappeared by 80%. Although he will still be angry when he sees Vegeta, he no longer has the obsession to kill him. At most, he can let Broly beat him a few more times in the future. Anyway, Vegeta can't beat Broly. When Paragus was thinking this, Gohan walked over and patted Broly on the shoulder. In Broly's puzzled eyes, Gohan teleported back home. Not long after returning home, Piccolo came. He asked Gohan what happened. After all, the battle between Gohan and Broly just now was too terrifying, and the key was so huge that it was unimaginable. Piccolo on Earth certainly sensed it. But he couldn't teleport, otherwise, he would have teleported to planet Vampa. Gohan roughly explained to Piccolo what happened. Listening to Gohan's story, Piccolo was stunned. About some mutant Saiyans, new super transformations, and so on. Piccolo really wanted to see it. In the following days, in addition to getting familiar with his new transformation, Gohan spent the most time instructing Broly. But Broly's emotions were really hard to control, and he didn't even know what was going on when he went berserk. It was just like he had lost his memory. Therefore, Gohan thought of two ways to deal with it. First, he planned to use the power of the Dragon Balls to solve Broly's current problem. But the Dragon Balls would take more than half a year before they could be used again. As for the second method, he planned to send Broly to Beerus planet and let Whis train Broly. Whis must have a way. Chapter 118. Trunks took the time machine back to his own world. He put away the time machine, then climbed into a ruined building, opened a hidden door, and came to the basement built by Bulma. Although it was a basement, it was also transformed by Bulma to be brightly lit, as bright as day. Trunks tightened his clothes and walked quickly in the direction of Bulma. "Mom, I'm back," Trunks said. Bulma turned around. Bulma was already in her 50s. Because of years of hard work and living in fear all day long, her face was full of frost, and she looked several years older than her actual age. Seeing her son come back safely, Bulma's face was immediately filled with smiles, and the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes became more obvious. Hee hee, is everything going well, Trunks? She asked Trunks with a smile. Trunks nodded. Well, the special medicine was successfully delivered to Mr. Goku, but something unexpected happened during this period. Unexpected things? What is it? Bulma frowned slightly and asked. Trunks took off the long sword behind him and put it on the table, then found a stool and sat down next to Bulma. Mom, you may be a little surprised to hear this because I met someone you would never have thought of in the past world. Do you know who it was? I met Brother Gohan, who also came from the future. Bulma was stunned for a moment. Gohan? Gohan who went back to the future? There is such a thing? Yes, Mom. That Gohan is very strong, and his arms are intact. He is much taller than the Gohan we remember. He said that he was not killed by the androids in his world, and after practicing hard, he became very powerful, and then killed number 17 and number 18, bringing peace to his world. Bulma was surprised and said, how could this happen? Isn't the timeline unique? There are actually multiple timelines. This is really beyond my expectation. What happened then? She continued to ask. Later, Gohan taught me some ways to become stronger quickly. With these methods, I might be able to defeat the androids soon. Mom, did you build a gravity room for Dad before? Gohan said that the training speed can be accelerated by training in the gravity room. Now that you mention it, I remember that Vegeta used to practice in the gravity room. The gravity room he modified was a spaceship, which was actually made by your grandfather, but unfortunately, the spaceship has been scrapped for a long time. But don't worry, your mom will make another one for you. Compared with the time machine, the gravity room is much simpler to build and can be done quickly. Trunks clenched his fist and said excitedly, that's great. After talking to Bulma, Trunks carried the sword on his back and began to look for the Kami lookout. But it was a pity. The Kami lookout in this world had been destroyed by the androids at some point. There were several broken rocks floating in the sky, floating up and down. That was the ruins of the Kami lookout. The Karen Tower had also collapsed. Not to mention the hyperbolic time chamber, there was not even a house to be found. As for Mr. Popo, he was nowhere to be found. Trunks had no choice but to pin his only hope on the gravity room. Half a year later, Bulma lived up to expectations and finally rebuilt the gravity room. Trunks began his day and night hard training life. 2 years passed like this. Trunks found that he had finally broken through the bottleneck and become stronger. Trunks' muscles swelled and became stronger than before. This was the first small stage of Super Saiyan 1 advancement. Humph, Brother Gohan, it's time to avenge you. Trunks carried a long sword on his back, soared into the sky with a golden wave of air, and went around the world to find androids 17 and 18. Hard work pays off. Because she lost the game and got angry, no. 18, who threw ki blasts wildly, exposed her location and was successfully found by Trunks. Seeing Trunks suddenly appear, number 18 transferred her anger to Trunks. Without saying a word, she flew towards Trunks, ready to kill him to vent her anger. But Trunks, who usually couldn't beat her, suddenly went crazy today and punched her into a bloody mist. Seeing that the situation was not good, number 17 wanted to escape but was kicked to the ground by Trunks, who was faster than him. Number 17 staggered forward. But Trunks soared into the air, and a ki blast slammed down. Die, you beast. As soon as Trunks finished speaking, the ki blast exploded on number 17's body, and number 17 turned into powder in an instant. The world finally returned to peace. But Trunks did not forget to practice because he knew that there would be more terrible enemies waiting for him. In this way, a long time passed. Cell, who was like a giant insect, finally couldn't bear it anymore and attacked Trunks. But how could Trunks, who had been prepared, let Cell succeed? Without any surprise, Cell was also killed by Trunks. A few more years passed quickly. One day, Supreme Kai and Kibito found Trunks, told him about Majin Buu, and then took Trunks to planet Kaioshin for special training. The first thing to do, of course, was to pull out the Z-Sword. Trunks finally pulled out the Z-Sword after some effort. Trunks did not forget what Gohan said and found a way to break the Z-Sword. The old Supreme Kai was able to be unsealed and returned to the world. Later, the Supreme Kai received the news that Babidi had arrived on Earth and was ready to unseal Majin Buu. Although time was short, the old Supreme Kai still unlocked Trunks' potential. Trunks' potential was fully released, and his combat power was far beyond Super Saiyan 2. Kibito and Supreme Kai sent Trunks back to Earth. At this time, Babidi's men were still collecting the energy of the Earthlings. Majin Buu was not unsealed at all. After a crushing battle, Dabura, and the other Babidi henchmen with Babidi himself, were all killed by Trunks. Majin Buu's seal ball was hidden by Supreme Kai again. After that, Trunks asked Supreme Kai to take him to New Namek. Trunks brought Dend back from Namek. With the help of Supreme Kai, the Earth rebuilt the Kami Lookout, and Dend became the new Kami of the Earth. The only difference is that this Kami no longer has Popo's assistance, and only has Trunks as a friend. Later, Dend created the Dragon Balls. With the help of the Dragon Balls, the Earth quickly recovered its vitality, everything was thriving, and everything was developing in a good direction. During this period, Trunks found an opportunity to go to the underworld. After a search, he successfully found the Z-Warriors. But those people were no longer willing to resurrect. Vegeta, who had been living in hell, had washed away his sins and reincarnated again. Trunks returned to Earth, met Mai, and lived a happy life ever since. Chapter 119. The Dragon Balls take too much time to use, so Gohan finally decided to take the second method and send Broly to Beerus's planet. Broly now, except when he is out of control and running wild, is more like a blank sheet of paper, so pure and simple that it is scary. Whis can draw and modify on this blank sheet of paper at will. And Broly's talent is really good. Therefore, Whis did not refuse and happily accepted this disciple. Another aspect is that Gohan gave too much. While eating, Gohan decided to roll up Beerus. He looked at Beerus and asked, "Lord Beerus, what do you do for your daily work?" Beerus glanced at him, said nothing, and continued to eat. Work? It's impossible to work. He can only eat and sleep. He feels exhausted when others mention work. Whis, next to him, smiled and explained for Beerus, Lord Beerus's job is to patrol the planets in the 7th universe and determine which planet needs to be destroyed. If that planet no longer has any meaning to exist, it will be destroyed. So it's not random destruction, right? Gohan frantically tested the danger. Boy, what are you talking about? Beerus glared at him. Just chatting, Gohan spread his hands. Whis said, of course not. Planets that are well developed cannot be destroyed at will. The main targets of destruction are some decaying dead stars, which are planets that cannot be saved. Of course, if some planets cause adverse effects and cause imbalance in the universe, they will be forcibly destroyed. So that's it. Gohan turned to Beerus and said, TSK, Master Beerus, so you'd better not sleep in so often in the future and work hard. With your current work attitude, your performance is very poor. Aren't you afraid of being outdone by other gods of destruction? If the boss notices, you're done. Beerus can't be allowed to sleep any longer. Roll up and stand up with the heavy responsibility of the 7th universe on his shoulders. Wow, it would be great if Lord Beerus could have Mr. Gohan's work attitude. Whis chuckled. Whis, don't talk so much, damn it, Beerus glared at Gohan, rubbed his temple, and felt a little headache. This kid is too noisy. Gohan, you should shut up too. Beerus must firmly resist the influence of Gohan. Every day he is either practicing or running around. His life is really boring. Doesn't he feel uncomfortable when not eating and sleeping? Gohan turned his head to look at Whis and asked, Master Whis, didn't Lord Omni King set a target? What if the target is not accomplished, the universe index does not meet the standard, and punishment is imposed? Our salesmen at the Universal Capsule Corps will have their bonus and even salary chopped off if their performance does not meet the standards. I am really worried that Lord Beerus will come back with one arm missing. Beerus's body froze when he heard this. Zeno will blame him? He is not afraid of anything else, but when Zeno is mentioned, he becomes numb with just one name. Will the Omni King Zeno really blame him? It seems that this is possible. After all, the Omni King is quite moody. So Beerus put his hands on his thighs and quietly sat up straight. Whis said, "Oh, it's really hard to say. The average level of our 7th universe has always been relatively poor, mainly because there are too many dead stars. Maybe it will really make the Omni King angry. This is not possible, right?" "Well, Lord Beerus, I was just saying it casually. Lord Omni King shouldn't be angry. After all these years have passed, isn't Lord Beerus still alive and well?" Gohan looked at Beerus and said with a smile. But listening to his words, Beerus felt uncomfortable, and the food in his hand became bitter. Damn it! Beerus, embarrassed and angry, punched Gohan and sent him flying. Broly, while they were talking, kept eating. When they finished talking, Beerus looked down and found. Where is the food? Where is all the food? Burp, Broly burped. Then Broly was also punched away by Beerus. But from this day on, Beerus really changed. He would take several hours every day to do his job. Time passed quietly. Half a year later, on Palzo Mountain, Goku's family was full of joy and excitement because today is Goten's 4th birthday. His family celebrated his birthday, and all relatives and friends came. Naturally, Bulma's family also came. At the banquet, Krillin also announced another happy event. His wife Marin is pregnant. Krillin is an old man who had a son, and he was happier than Goten on his birthday. He held Marin in the palm of his hand and loved her very much. After dinner, Goku mysteriously pulled Gohan to the corner, his face full of troubles. Gohan asked curiously, "Dad, what's the matter?" Goku frowned and said, "Gohan, I want to ask you some questions. You usually know more, so I want you to help me with some ideas." "What's wrong?" Several question marks appeared above Gohan's head. "It's like this, Gohan, your mother hasn't been happy at all recently, so I'm a little worried about her. For this reason, I have been observing her for several days. Lately, she's been sighing a lot, saying she's getting old, her face has wrinkles, she's not as strong as before, etc. I am not good when doing things. Last night, when she was sleeping, I heard her talking in her sleep. She sighed and said, 'I have grown old in the blink of an eye, but Goku still looks like a young man, we are not a good match at all.' As she was sleep-talking, I saw that she was crying. Gohan, I'm a little worried about your mother. What do you think I should do? Is there any good way? I want to make her happier." Gohan touched his chin and roughly understood what was going on. In order to adapt to combat, the Saiyans have a very long adolescence. It can last from the age of 18 to 80. In addition, Goku died of a heart attack at the age of 26 or 27 for more than 10 years. After he was resurrected, he still maintained his appearance and body. And now he has the blessing of the God Ki. It is estimated that it will be difficult for him to age in this life. But Chi-Chi is different. Although Chi-Chi was a martial artist when she was young, she was just an earthling who was stronger than ordinary people. Now Chi-Chi is over 50 years old. It is normal to have concerns in this regard. Gohan leaned close to Goku's ear and said, "Dad, this is actually very simple. I tell you, you can secretly collect Dragon Balls and then make a wish to make Mom young again, right? She will definitely be very surprised, hee hee." Ah, is this really possible? Goku's eyes widened and his voice became louder. Many people looked over. They were wondering what the father and son were whispering about. Gohan lowered his voice a little bit. Ahem, of course, you can make a wish to let her be 20 years old forever. She will definitely be very happy. Chapter 120. A few months passed, and the Dragon Balls revived and regained their luster. Goku calculated the day for the Dragon Balls to be revived, and on the first day, he went to Bulma to borrow the Dragon Ball radar. Bulma asked Goku what he was going to do with the Dragon Balls. The honest Goku couldn't hide the truth and blurted out what Gohan had suggested. So, Bulma got angry. Of course, she wasn't angry with Goku or Gohan, she was angry with Vegeta. Even Goku knows to love his wife so much that he has to collect Dragon Balls to make Chi-Chi young again. Why hasn't Vegeta thought about this? All he knows is to practice day after day. So, Bulma laughed at Goku and said, "Hee hee, Goku, after you made a wish to make Chi-Chi young again, don't you have 2 wishes left? What are you going to do?" Goku scratched the back of his head with his right hand and said, I haven't thought about it yet. How about giving Chi-Chi a new set of clothes? She will definitely be happy, ha 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 ha. Not good. Bulma put her hands on her hips and retorted loudly. Why? Why is it not good? What about me? Bulma pointed at herself. Do you remember what you looked like when we first met? And look at me now? Ha ha, isn't it the same? But the chest seems to be a little flatter. Goku laughed and pointed. Bulma was furious and punched Goku directly, but it hurt herself. Damn it, Goku, you bastard, make me younger too, or I won't let you go, Bulma said angrily. Okay. Goku agreed repeatedly. Oh, and Videl, both back to 20 years old, Bulma said loudly. Okay. Goku succumbed to Bulma's tyranny. To be honest, he seemed to be afraid of only 2 people in this world. The first one is Chi-Chi. The second one was naturally Bulma. Even Beerus, he was not afraid at all. After getting Goku's promise, Bulma was satisfied and thought about how to take revenge on Vegeta tonight. Goku took the Dragon Ball radar and hurried to collect the Dragon Balls. With Goku's speed, it wouldn't take too long to collect 7 Dragon Balls. After a while, the 7 Dragon Balls were neatly placed in front of him. Goku was very familiar with the summoning process of the dragon, so he quickly fulfilled his wish. Chi-Chi, Bulma, and Videl, forever 20 years old, wish fulfilled heavy checkmark. The dragon dispersed and the sky cleared up. Meanwhile, on Pyozo Mountain, Chi-Chi, who was about to take Goten out to the town to buy some things, suddenly found that something was wrong with her body. Her hands became softer and whiter, the fat on her belly disappeared, her chest became firmer, and her hips became more rounded. She walked lightly and felt comfortable. What happened? Why do I feel like I've returned to the time when I participated in the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament? Chi-Chi had a very deep impression of the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament. Because a lot of things happened at that martial arts tournament. One of the most important things was that she met Goku for the first time after she grew up, and then they fought in the ring, and then they got engaged in the ring. So she will remember that year for the rest of her life. Chi-Chi hurried back to the room and then looked in the mirror. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Really, I've really turned young again? What on earth is going on? At this moment, Goku teleported over. When Chi-Chi saw Goku, she immediately pounced on him. Goku, something strange happened. I seem to have turned back to my youth, Chi-Chi said nervously, but the joy in her eyes could not be concealed. Ha, are you happy then? Goku asked with a laugh. I was happy at first, but I was also a little scared. I didn't know how I could suddenly become younger. Chi-Chi was a little worried. Don't be afraid, because I used the Dragon Balls to make you younger, Goku said truthfully. Really? Thank you, Goku. Chi-Chi knew what was going on, and her worries disappeared all of a sudden. She jumped up and hung on Goku. It seemed that not only her body became younger, but also her mentality became younger. Everything returned to the way it was when she was younger. As long as you are happy. Goku hugged Chi-Chi and laughed. He didn't know how to say those gentle love words. But if Chi-Chi was happy, he would be happy too. Chi-Chi jumped off Goku, locked the door, and then leaned close to Goku's ear and said, Goku, let me show you what my young body can do. The hot air blew on his ears, and Goku felt his ears were itchy and a little hot. Oh, okay. His heartbeat became faster and hotter. The next day, Vegeta lay in the yard basking in the sun for most of the day. During this time, Bulma passed by him and whistled at him with a ruddy face, but he looked blankly as if he didn't hear her. After not sleeping all night, Vegeta really felt very sleepy and tired. "Dad, what happened to you?" Trunks asked as he passed by. "Ah, Trunks? It's okay, I didn't sleep well last night," Vegeta waved his hand. "Dad is really strange today." Trunks frowned in confusion and walked into the house. Mom? Trunks stared at Bulma in amazement. What happened? Mom seems to be very strange today. Is he dreaming? What's wrong, Trunks? Bulma laughed. Mom, how come you've become younger? You look younger than me now. Trunks was stunned. Not only did she become younger, but her face was also very rosy. She looked so beautiful. That's because Goku asked Shenron to make me younger. Bulma smiled happily and told the truth. So that's how it is, then what happened to Dad? Trunks pointed at Vegeta, who was lying like a salted fish outside the yard. Your father, when he heard that it was Goku who made me younger, he must be jealous and angry, hee. Bulma covered her mouth and chuckled. Well. Trunks said that he did not understand adult affairs. He planned to go to the gravity room for training for a while, and then go to find Lily for a date. Compared with Bulma and Chi-Chi, Vidal's contrast was not so strong. After all, Vidal's actual age was only 27 years old, and now her body did not change that much. It was just that she lacked a bit of mature charm and gained a bit of immaturity. After an hour of fierce fighting in the morning, Gohan kissed Vidal on the forehead, then put on his clothes and teleported to Beerus's planet. That wraps up this part of What If Reborn is Gohan in Future Timeline. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.